Welcome in. It is great to have you here with us today for another custom-tailored deep dive.
Glad to be here.
We have a highly specific and frankly quite challenging mission today.
Yeah, it's a big one.
We are looking at the ultimate shortcut to language fluency, but more broadly, we're going to explore how we as humans attempt to conquer the massive, overwhelming beast that is information overload.
Right.
We're going to look at what happens when you strip communication down to its absolute bare essentials.
It's a journey into the architecture of information, really.
Yeah.
When you are faced with just an endless sea of data, the most critical survival skill is learning how to find the signal in the noise.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
to find that signal, we are looking at a very concentrated piece of source material today.
Mhm.
We aren't analyzing a massive textbook. In fact, we are looking at just an excerpt, really a foundational premise, from a work titled Essential Lexicon, 100 Key English Phrases.
Right, and it's the subtext there that really grabs you.
Yes. The bold promise that this text makes right out of the gate, which is 100 common English phrases you must know.
That phrasing it represents a definitive line in the sand regarding how we approach learning and human interaction.
Okay, let's unpack this, because declaring a specific, limited set of phrases as an essential lexicon is a remarkably bold stance.
It is.
But honestly, drawing a hard line at exactly 100 phrases, I have to push back a little here.
Sure.
If someone is trying to actually communicate in a complex, fast-paced world, wouldn't a 100-phrase limit severely restrict their ability to express nuanced emotion?
You'd think so, yeah.
It sounds like we are stripping language down until it is almost robotic, effectively trapping the learner in a very small communicative box.
What's fascinating here is that cognitive science suggests the exact opposite outcome.
Really?
Yeah, we tend to operate under the assumption that more vocabulary automatically equals better, more nuanced communication.
Right. The bigger the dictionary, the better you speak.
Exactly. But what you are actually doing when you hand a learner a massive, comprehensive dictionary is inducing cognitive overload.
Ah.
The human brain can only actively manage so many variables at once in real time.
Especially when you're nervous. Right. Like speaking to a native speaker.
Exactly. By constraining the inputs to a finite number, like a strict limit of 100, you aren't creating a robot. You're significantly reducing the mental friction of choice.
Which actually frees up the learner's cognitive bandwidth.
Precisely.
Freeing it up for what, though? Because if they only have 100 things they're allowed to say, they still have to navigate a world that throws thousands of unpredictable scenarios at them every single day.
They're freeing that bandwidth up for execution.
Oh, I see.
When you aren't agonizing over which of the 50,000 possible words to select from a mental database, you can focus on tone. You can focus on timing.
Body language.
Yes, body language, situational context. You begin to stretch those 100 phrases, testing their boundaries and finding their elasticity.
So the limitation is the point.
A strict constraint like this forces creativity.
Hmm.
Consider how poets use rigid structures like a haiku or a sonnet.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
The severe limitation is precisely what forces the artistry to emerge. In language learning, or really mastering any new skill, that artistry translates into agility.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because applying that idea of constraint breeding agility makes me think of the philosophy behind packing a survival kit.
Oh, absolutely.
If you are going into the wilderness, you do not bring your entire garage.
No, you never make it up the mountain.
Right. You don't bring a highly specialized single-use tool for every possible microscopic scenario you might encounter. You bring a curated finite set of tools.
You bring the multi-tool.
You bring the essentials, and you, listening to this right now, you know exactly what this tension feels like.
We all do.
Whether you are prepping for a massive presentation, trying to catch up on a completely new industry, or just trying to navigate a new environment, you want to gain knowledge quickly and thoroughly.
But you do not want to drown in information overload.
Exactly. Setting a strict boundary prevents that paralysis.
And the paralysis of choice is perhaps the defining cognitive roadblock of the modern era.
It really is.
When you have infinite options of what to say, what to study, or what to learn next, the sheer weight of those options often results in learning nothing at all.
Well, you just freeze up.
Right. So the strict boundary of 100 phrases acts as a psychological safety net.
It tells the learner that the universe of this language is indeed boundless, but their immediate, actionable universe is just this one contained room.
Yes, a room with exactly 100 items in it. It takes the insurmountable and scales it down into something the brain can actually process.
It turns a chaotic landscape into a structured checklist.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to look closely at the second half of that title, because the source doesn't simply call it an essential lexicon and leave it at that.
Really, it pushes further.
It explicitly states, 100 common English phrases you must know.
Yeah,
That specific framing, you must know, feels incredibly intense.
it is.
It isn't framed as a gentle suggestion or a helpful tip. It reads almost like an ultimatum.
It is a deliberate, forceful imperative.
Yeah.
The psychological weight of the phrase "you must know" cannot be overstated here. It elevates these items from mere vocabulary flashcards to critical, non-negotiable cultural keys.
It raises the stakes.
Completely. When a source dictates that something is a must-know, it is establishing a baseline for survival.
Wow.
It implies that your ability to function, to collaborate, and to thrive in this specific linguistic environment depends entirely on your mastery of these foundational elements.
And without them.
Without them, the social system effectively crashes.
That intensity makes sense, but it also places a heavy burden on the learner.
How so?
Well, if these are the ultimate keys to survival, the fear of forgetting one of them or misusing one of them must be incredibly high.
It does raise the stakes of the interaction, certainly,
Yeah.
but there is a counterintuitive relief embedded in that ultimatum as well. Yes. By definitively telling you what you must know, the source implicitly grants you permission to ignore everything else,
Oh.
at least in the beginning phases of mastery.
Right, you don't have to learn the other 10,000 words yet.
Exactly. That permission is a massive relief for an overwhelmed learner. It creates a highly specific, achievable goal.
You aren't just memorizing arbitrary sounds hoping they will be useful someday.
No, you are actively downloading the fundamental operating system of the culture.
The source draws a deliberate line with its adjectives, too.
Yes, it does.
It uses common and it uses key. The title says 100 common English phrases, but the main header is 100 key English phrases.
And those are not the same thing.
Right. To a casual reader, those might just sound like marketing synonyms to sell the premise, but they point to two very different functions in communication.
They really do.
We all know common phrases, the transactional greetings you say at the grocery store, the filler words, the background noise of everyday existence.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the distinction between common and key is the engine that drives this entire philosophy of learning.
Okay, let's get into that.
Common implies frequency, as you noted, but key implies leverage.
Leverage.
Right. A key is a tool designed to unlock a closed system.
So a key phrase would be something highly strategic.
Exactly. A
Yeah.
key phrase is what you deploy to de-escalate a sudden conflict or to bridge a cultural gap.
Or to assert a boundary.
Yes, or to establish immediate empathy. A key phrase has power disproportionate to its length.
That is a crucial distinction.
It is.
So if a phrase is just common, you hear it all the time, but it doesn't necessarily move the needle in a complex interaction.
Right.
But if a phrase is both common and key, meaning it occurs frequently but also provides massive social leverage, that is the ultimate communication shortcut.
It is the holy grail of language acquisition.
Yeah.
That intersection of the everyday and the profound is what an essential lexicon attempts to capture. And this brings us to an incredibly vital point of reflection about the architecture of language itself.
Which is?
The source text specifically mandates phrases.
Ah, right.
It does not advocate for 100 common English words. It completely bypasses the traditional dictionary approach.
It's looking at the whole sentence.
Exactly. I want to pause the analysis for a second here. What stands out to you listening to this when you consider the vast difference between memorizing individual disconnected words versus mastering full, intact phrases?
Well, to me, it fundamentally changes the structural approach to learning.
How so?
Memorizing individual words feels like being handed a pile of bricks on a construction site. Yes, those bricks have the potential to become a house, but on their own, they don't offer any shelter. They're just raw materials.
They're just pieces.
Right. If you just learn a list of translated words, you are forcing yourself to do the terrifying mental math of putting them together in real time, applying grammatical mortar, all while someone is staring at you waiting for a response.
And that mental math is where the breakdown usually occurs.
Exactly.
Translating word for word mechanically strips away the humanity of the interaction.
Because you're focused on the math, not the person.
Right. The tone gets lost. The cultural politeness gets warped. A word is an isolated piece of data.
But a phrase.
But a phrase is a prefabricated structure. It already contains embedded tone, context, and historical nuance. You don't have to build it from scratch. You just have to know when to walk into the room.
That eliminates so much of the social friction
It does.
because a phrase is a locked-in unit of meaning. It's almost like learning a script rather than learning a vocabulary list.
That is the exact mechanism at play. When you learn a phrase, you are downloading a complete behavioral script.
You're learning the culture.
Yes, you are learning how a culture specifically encodes apologies, how it frames requests, how it expresses gratitude, or how it signals polite disagreement.
So you aren't just translating words, you're adopting a persona.
Precisely. A lexicon of phrases bypasses the rigid academic rules of grammar by treating language not as a math problem to be painstakingly solved, but as a series of social tools to be strategically deployed.
You adopt the persona of the culture through its phrases.
You do.
So what does this all mean? We have been dissecting this incredible premise, looking at constraints, leverage, and behavioral scripts.
I've covered a lot of ground.
We have. But here is the most fascinating part of today's deep dive.
Okay.
The source material we are working with today is strictly this overarching premise.
Right.
It is the title, the bold promise, and the philosophy. We haven't been given the actual list of the 100 phrases.
No, we haven't.
There's no index to flip to.
Yeah.
And because we don't have the specific list to nitpick or to memorize or to argue over, this premise acts as an incredibly powerful mirror.
It acts as a mirror because the absence of the list forces us to project our own values, our own anxieties, and our own daily realities onto that empty page.
Which turns this from a simple language manual into a deep psychological exercise.
It really does.
It forces us to ask ourselves, what do we value in communication? What do we consider to be a must-know for survival in our own specific environments?
Mm-hmm.
If you had to curate this list for your own life, what makes the cut?
It's a tough question.
The sheer concept of this source highlights the universal human desire to organize, simplify, and master complex systems. We desperately crave boundaries because boundaries give us a solid place to stand when the information tide comes rushing in.
And that desire for boundaries extends far beyond language learning.
How so?
It is a fundamental survival mechanism in the modern world. We are bombarded with an infinite stream of data points, opinions, in media every single day.
It never stops.
It doesn't. If we do not actively take responsibility for curating our own essential lexicons in our professional fields, in our personal relationships, and in our media consumption, we become entirely paralyzed.
We just freeze.
We become passive receivers rather than active participants.
It points directly to the power of deliberate curation.
Yes.
The ultimate shortcut to being well-informed or highly capable in any field isn't about having a photographic memory that absorbs every single detail.
Not at all.
It is about knowing exactly what to throw away. It is about looking at a dictionary of 10,000 words or a report of 1,000 pages and having the sheer confidence to say, I only need these core elements to build the foundation.
It completely redefines our standard metric for fluency.
It does, because we usually think of fluency as knowing everything.
Fluency is often mistakenly thought of as absolute comprehensive knowledge, knowing every word, every rule, every exception.
Right.
But this philosophical premise suggests that fluency is actually about extreme agility within a restricted set of highly optimized tools.
That's a great way to put it.
If you possess the right 100 phrases, and you understand deeply how, when, and why to deploy them, you can maneuver through society with far more grace and effectiveness than someone who has memorized 10,000 words but doesn't understand the cultural rhythm of a single phrase.
Extreme agility with optimized tools. That concept applies to almost every high-pressure scenario you can imagine.
It really does.
It applies perfectly to preparing for a high-stakes board meeting. You don't need to memorize 100 slides of raw data and risk cognitive overload.
No, you'd fail.
You need the 10 key data points that unlock the larger narrative. You need the essential lexicon of that specific meeting. You find the common and you find the key.
This is why the active engagement demanded by the source is so critical.
Because it's a choice.
Exactly. It implies that mastery isn't something that just happens to you over time. Mastery is a choice you make by focusing your attention fiercely and unapologetically on the foundational elements and rigorously practicing those elements until they become second nature.
It is the ultimate remedy for the overwhelmed learner.
It is.
If you are ever looking at a new subject, a new role at work, or a new language, and feeling like it is simply too vast and too chaotic to ever understand, you just have to remember the premise of today's source. You do not have to conquer the entire ocean on day one. You just have to find your 100 phrases.
This raises an important question, however, about the nature of those phrases.
What's that?
Because we do not have the definitive list in front of us, we must acknowledge a crucial reality. Any list of 100 phrases is going to be deeply subjective.
Right, someone had to pick them.
The individual who curated this theoretical essential lexicon had to make agonizing choices about what to include and what to leave on the cutting room floor.
It's all about what they valued.
And recognizing that subjectivity reminds us that we are always passively curating our own personal lexicons in our daily lives, often without realizing it.
That is very true. The vocabulary we instinctively lean on when we are managing a crisis at work is entirely different from the essential lexicon we use when we are trying to comfort a friend.
Exactly.
We all walk around with our own deeply personal, highly contextual, essential lexicons.
We do. And understanding that there are multiple equally valid perspectives on what is truly essential fundamentally changes how we approach interacting with others.
Yeah.
The 100 phrases a doctor absolutely must know to survive a chaotic shift in an emergency room are entirely different from the 100 phrases a diplomat needs to negotiate a treaty.
Or a traveler needs to navigate a foreign transit system.
Exactly. The underlying architecture of the language remains exactly the same, but the curated tools shift dramatically based on the mission at hand.
Which brings us full circle to the sheer brilliance of the source's overarching premise.
Mm-hmm.
By boldly stating that there is an essential lexicon to be found, it challenges you to define your own.
It does.
It challenges you to look at the overwhelming sea of information in your life, grab a metaphorical red pen, and boldly draw a circle around the things that actually matter. It demands that you separate the key leverage points from the background noise.
It serves as a masterclass in the philosophy of learning and knowledge management.
Absolutely.
When you find yourself in the ocean, don't waste your energy trying to drink the entire ocean. Build a boat out of the 100 most solid, reliable pieces of wood you can find, and use that to navigate the waters.
Build a boat out of the essentials. That is the perfect distillation of today's analysis.
Thank you.
We have explored the deep philosophy of language curation, the psychological relief provided by the must-know constraint, and the profound agility that comes from stripping communication down to its structural core.
We covered quite a bit.
The overarching takeaway from today's deep dive into this concentrated premise is clear. Mastering a field, a language, or any massive system is not about attempting to absorb every single detail.
No, attempting to do so is a trap that leads straight to paralysis.
True mastery is about identifying, isolating, and focusing intensely on the right things, the curated, the common, and the key.
And crucially, understanding that those key elements are the specific tools that unlock the doors to genuine human connection, empathy, and capability.
Now, before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a final, lingering thought experiment to mull over on your own time.
This is a good one.
It is a way to directly apply what we've discussed today regarding the incredible power of constraints and curation. Imagine that tomorrow, some strange, unexplainable phenomenon forces you to permanently abandon your entire massive vocabulary.
Everything you know.
All the industry jargon you've learned, all the regional slang, all the endless nuanced variations of words you use every single day, completely gone.
Gone.
You can only communicate for the rest of your life using a strictly personal, essential lexicon of exactly 100 phrases.
It's a terrifying thought.
It is. If you had to sit down right now with a blank piece of paper and curate that ultimate survival kit for your life, what is the very first phrase you would write down at the top of that list to ensure you could still connect with the people you love, survive in your environment, and be truly understood?
What is your ultimate key phrase?
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining us for this custom-tailored deep dive. Keep questioning the information around you. Keep looking for the essential signal in the noise, and always find the joy in everyday discovery. We will catch you next time.